and welcome to the Right Book Author Talk, another of our series of chats with the authors who have published books with us over the last few years. We're absolutely delighted to welcome one of my best friends, as well as a great author and a great colleague too. William Buist is a brilliant business mentor, speaker, and the author of Intentional Mastery. Now, on the back of William's book, it says, "Mastery has a remarkable power. Mastery defines who you are rather than just what you do. The insights you develop focus your knowledge, skills, and experience and inspire trust. Mastery unleashes the power of word of mouth, and your influence spreads far beyond your work." I'm delighted to welcome today William Buist.
Hello, Sue. Nice to see you and delighted to be here too.
Lovely to see you, William. So, Intentional Mastery. Here we are to talk about your fabulous book and your work, which you've been developing over the last few years that I've known you. And tell us a little bit about that work that you do with people, and then perhaps we can go on to talk about what you mean by intentional mastery.
So I'm a business mentor. I set up the business, well, it's getting to very close to 20 years ago now, which is quite scary. I don't know where those years have slipped by, but they do. And really that was a business that I set up to work with small business owners to help them design the best business they could and help them with strategy. And that's why I talk about building better business. And that is part of the title of the book as well. It's Intentional Mastery, Step Beyond Your Expertise and Build Better Business. And the Build Better Business is really recognition of the fact that whatever we are doing today in our businesses, we know there are always areas where we can improve and develop and grow. And we need to focus the right tools, techniques, and strategy on those things to make those improvements sustainable and long lasting. And that's been the core of my work since I started the business.
Indeed. And actually, it's no secret, you and I have worked together. You've helped me working within my business for 10 years, probably more. I don't know. We've known each other at least that a lot longer. And this kind of special ingredient that you have, which is, I think, so key to what you talk about, which is that depth of, bringing who we really are to what we do, so that we can really be fulfilled as well as create great business. What would you say is, what is it that you bring, if you like? What is it that you bring to the party that's kind of the special bit about what you do?
So I think I'm right through my career. I mean, right from before I had my own business, when I was working in, with big British banks and various other big corporations over the years, I was watching the way that people learnt, the way they developed, the way they grew their own skills and used experience to enhance what they know. And that's what lies at the heart of that mastery word in the book title. And I've recognized that this is a journey, and that it starts really, right back when we know nothing. We're just exploring a topic and thinking about it. I remember my first job, I joined the insurance industry. I knew literally nothing about insurance on the day of my first day in the office. And at that point, people are hungry for knowledge. They gather that knowledge. They start then to think about how to do some of the things that need doing and start developing skills. At that stage, they're a novice, lots of mistakes, and learning from those mistakes. But as they learn, they become practitioners, and the practitioners, I think an awful lot of people remain as practitioners for most of their working life. Nothing wrong with that at all. Good at what they do in the context they do it, and very happy to continue to sit in that role, doing that job and doing it very well. But for a few, they're building experience. For a few of those people, they develop a deep expertise, probably not in the whole breadth of what they were doing, but in narrow areas within it, and become known as the expert in, fill in the blank. But I think there's another step beyond that, and that's the step to mastery. And that comes from bringing together all of the insights that you can bring to bear from all aspects of life and your experiences in other areas, and bringing them to bear on what you do to really get that real depth of understanding and to become somebody who's almost synonymous with doing that thing, being a footballer, being a publisher, and they embody it, heart, mind, and soul. And that's a journey that never really ends. And so those stages, explorer, novice, practitioner, expert, and master, are what are at the heart of the book. But you mentioned the other word in the title, of course, is intentional. And I think there's an awful lot relying on people to want to step up that journey. And for some people, as I say, they get to practitioner and that's comfortable for them. They want to just get on, do that work, get paid for it, and maybe do other things that they get more expertise in that are not what they do, but they're, hobbies and all the rest of it. And I think if we want to be the very best we can be in business, and when you own a business or you're a senior leader within a small business, that has to be part of your strategy. Then we need to be intentional about that journey. And that means thinking about, where are my skills today? What knowledge have I got? What experience do I still need in order to move along that journey? And somebody asked me the other day whether how long this journey takes. And my immediate answer was, well, it's a lifetime. It's not something that we ever really finish, but we can enjoy every step of the journey along the way.
I think that's brilliant, and it's so key, isn't it? It's not about, what I get from your book is that it's not about each stage being kind of particularly, it's not about necessarily being better than the other stage. We have to go through all those stages.
Exactly.
In order to, so I'm really intrigued to know how would you describe the difference? When do we know we've stepped into that place of mastery? We're an expert in our field. We're known as that person who's really good at it. What's the step change that happens that takes us into that mastery, and what's the difference?
I think there's two things that happen, and they happen gradually. So again, you're not going to wake up one morning and go, "Oh, I'm there now." It's a kind of, Steve Jobs talked about that in his commencement speech, that you can join the dots looking backwards, but you can't look forwards and work out what dots you need to join up to get there. I think that one aspect of it is confidence, that you know your subject so well, and you understand the way it interacts with the world and with other people, and in all sorts of different contexts, that you have the confidence that you're not going to be thrown off track by something that happens that you don't yet know about. You'll be okay. So that confidence comes out when you're engaging with other people, and that's, I think, what they see that makes them realize you are a master of what you do. I was listening just 2 days ago to the Commissioner for the Metropolitan Police being interviewed on the radio. And he handled every question with what I would call mastery. It's worth listening to if you get a chance. It was on the Today programme. And I've posted about it on the social media as well. For me, his confidence in dealing with what were very difficult and, in a journalistic environment, quite pointed questions, trying to find things that they were doing wrong. And he was able just to handle all of that with a calmness, with a confidence, with aplomb, not accepting that things were wrong, not accepting that they were right, not justifying anything, not defending anything, just telling it as it was and how he saw it. And with that calm confidence that meant you left the interview thinking, yeah, there were some issues. There were still some problems with the Met Police. I think nobody would deny that right now. But this man knows what he's doing. He is a master of, that's why he's got that big top job. And it became very obvious. That's the confidence. That's the trust you engender in other people.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. So tell us a bit, William, about the book. What made you decide that you wanted to write a book about this? What was the kind of core of that?
Well, you and I'm laughing because you and I were there when that commitment was made. It was my 60th birthday party, and I, maybe alcohol had been taken. I'm not sure. But I made a commitment to a group of my friends who were at my 60th birthday party to do something over the next 2 to 3 years, and that something was. I remember the words I chose. I chose to say I'm going to write it down, and by it I meant the things that I know, that the insights that I'd had over the years of work. By write it down, I didn't necessarily mean a book at that point. But you were in the room, and I know that you heard, "Oh, he's going to write a book." So and that was fine. And we kind of had a joke about it over the next few months, and I started to write it down. I realized actually, yes, I did want to publish a book, and I wanted to publish a book because I recognized that in the process of writing it down, I was creating something that could help many more people than I could ever reach in my mentoring work alone, and probably many more people than I could reach with the speaking work that I do as well. It gave me an opportunity to have my thoughts and my insights and the insights that brings to others who are trying to build a great business. It allowed me to reach many people who I may never know, to make a difference in their lives. And that felt like a really important thing to do. But as I was writing it down as well, I realized too, probably early in getting towards the completion of a first draft, I kind of rereading some of it and thinking, this is fabulous stuff. It's really, it's important, but it's got no heart and soul. It was a good manual. It read a little bit like some of the manuals we used to get with electronic equipment and so on. And it was kind of take the plug out of its wrapping and stick it in the socket on the wall and press the on switch. And that wasn't the book I wanted to write at all. So I didn't stop. I took a lot of what I'd already written, but I then wrapped that with stories and with, as I described it to others, I put William back into the book. And that, I think, has made it a much easier read and allowed people to see through the power of stories the similarities with their situation. I can't know what a reader's situation is going to be, but what I can do is tell stories that are likely to resonate with them, and for them to see where they can take what I learned through that story and apply it in their own business.
It's very interesting. It's almost as if you stepped yourself in that process from expertise to mastery. There's something about the confidence that you found in the writing of the book, that you drew on your experience, you drew on your expertise, but you stepped into another place altogether and found the confidence to just really do your own thing, to find your own voice, I think, do you think that part of stepping into mastery, potentially for quite a lot of people, could be the process of writing a book, in that what you described there about how you read what you'd written and then thought, yes, and then you could kind of develop it, really, that there's something about the process of writing a book that really helps to move you forward in your own place of knowledge.
Without question, I think it allows you to, first of all, to see where your talent really lies, where is your expertise, and to recognize where it isn't as well. There were chunks of that first draft that are not in the final book, because whilst they're useful, they're not where I have the real depth. And so it helped me to focus on where is there real depth of understanding of what's happening here, of the psychology, of the way humans learn, of that step change between the elements where we're talking about knowledge and skill and experience and insight, and what do those words really mean. And so that focus allowed me to hone in on that. And I think the process of writing gave me a much deeper understanding of them too. So it's kind of circular in a way, that without writing it down, I've got the knowledge in my head, but I've got it in one place in my head. By writing it, I have to surface that knowledge again in a way, make it consciously competent again, in that, style of conscious incompetence and so on. So by making it consciously competent, I'm also then thinking about, how do I provide this information to somebody who is an explorer, who is in need of knowledge? So I've got to provide knowledge, but I also need to think about the people who have got that knowledge already and are now novices. They need to develop their skills. So I need things in the book that will help them to do that. And that's why there are exercises at the end of each chapter. They're to help you develop the skill. The stories share my experience and allow, I think, people to connect with their own experience and see the parallels and start thinking about their own experience and how that comes to bear. And then finally, the insights that I'm sharing in the book allow them also to see what insights they can take from their own experience as they read the book and bring to bear on what they do. So I'm hopefully not just writing about this journey of mastery, I'm also demonstrating it through the way the book is structured and the way it's written.
Fascinating. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And how did you find it? How did you find writing the book? What was it like?
It's tough, frustrating, difficult, and easy, fun, and exciting in roughly equal measure. There are times when it's really quite hard. You're trying to write something quite important and finding the right words. There are however many words in the English language, and most of us know tens of thousands of them. We've got to pick the right one. And certainly when you get to doing things like the cover of a book, picking the right words becomes a project in its own right. And even things like the part of the title is building better business. And, we had I had internal debates about, is building the right word, or should it be build, or, and what are the right things? And we ended up with build, because for a long time it was building. But I chose build in the end because to me it's about something solid. And I just felt that word conveyed that more successfully. So, you can argue internally about 3 letters within one word. And that can be deeply frustrating. It's also deeply joyful when you land on the right answer and you read back what you've written and think, gosh, that's good. Who wrote that? That's fascinating.
I always say it's a bit of a voyage of self-discovery writing a book, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely.
I never knew I was that good.
But in the end, I struggled writing the manual, and that was frustrating. And once I'd found my voice, as you describe it, I think that's a really good description of it, then writing it became really, really easy. It became, because I was drawing on my own experience, and I'm telling my own story, and that was so much easier. Refining it, editing it, and so on still had some challenges, but it felt much more joyful.
I guess because it was more authentic, it was more you.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just do have to get out of our own way and allow ourselves to shine, don't we? There's absolutely no doubt about it. And especially writing, I know it wasn't your first book, but it was the first book which wasn't a manual, if you see what I mean. I mean, the books that you wrote many years ago that we published together, I don't know, 15 years ago probably, was a short, kind of very instructional book, wasn't it? So I think that you know, more practical. But I think that, you know, with this book, this is your legacy. This is who you are. This is your philosophy in some ways, and very uniquely yours, and brilliant and very helpful for people. But at the same time, you know, that creating of it and that digging out of it, it couldn't be a manual. It wasn't possible for it to be, no matter how many practical elements you put into it. It needed to go beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely, and it has, and you know, you
nailed it. Basically,
it's a joy. I dip into it myself to remind myself of what I've written, and I think, you know, that's a measure of a good book as well, if it's constantly being referred to, and I hope it sits on people's desks to remind them of the things that they can be looking at in their business and themselves. On that journey and making themselves the best person they can be, as well as building the better business.
Absolutely. So how have you found it? How have you found a use for the book within your own business?
Well, in lots of ways. I mean, firstly, of course, it is a big and useful business card in its own right. It's something that I can share with people, my clients, with people who are thinking of working with me, as a business card, if you like. So they get to know a little bit about me and hear some of the stories. And if they listen on the Audible version, they can hear me as well and hear the sound of my voice and whether that's grating or not, you know, all those things. So that's one aspect. I've over the course of the last year and a half since we published the book, I've been on 26 podcasts. A lot of those podcast hosts have had a copy of the book or come across the book, and that's enabled me to open those doors a bit more easily and get known that way. I've spoken in Europe, and I remember that the host of that event did exactly what you did at the start of this, was took my book on stage and introduced me reading from the back of the book, which was fabulous. So there's lots of ways in which having the book helps to open doors and start conversations that you wouldn't start without one, really, that just would be much harder to do. And also, I think it's something that you can use as a gift to people to help open those doors and improve and develop deeper relationships with people. And that's what I'm doing with it. So it's fabulous from that point of view. And of course, people are listening to it on Audible, they're reading it, buying it on Amazon or directly from me. I'm happy to sign any copies if anybody wants a defaced copy of my book. Then, and that's getting the message out to more and more people as each day goes by, which is great.
Indeed. I think, as we know, books have huge reach that, we can't even begin to imagine. And some of that lovely serendipitous stuff that's happening out there in the world, where people will be discovering your work and what you do because your book is out there. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, William, and thank you so much for joining us today for our Write Book Author Talk. William's book is available at obviously our website, at his website, and at all good bookstores, as they say. So that's writebookpress.com. You can also go to William's website and order it there if you prefer to buy it directly from him. That's absolutely great. And of course, all the usual retailers. It has been an absolute pleasure to hear about your journey along the way, writing and publishing your book. And we love working with you, of course, and we'll continue to watch you blossom as your book gets further out into the world. And if anybody else out there has been inspired by William's story and has a book in them that they think perhaps might help them to develop and explore their own mastery, then please do feel free to go to our website, writebookcompany.com/discovery, where you can book a call directly with me. It's been really good fun. Thank you again so much for joining us, William. And I look forward to seeing you all at the next Write Book Author Talk. Goodbye.
Thanks so much, Sue. Cheers now. Bye-bye.